just boil it down to that. Let love lead the way, because that certainly is what courage is all about. Well, I'm Reverend Jyoti, and I want to welcome you again to Grubby Sunday at CSL Boulder Valley. Since we had some folks come in that didn't realize it was Grubby Sunday, we don't always look quite this relaxed, although you can come however you want to. Let's see. Our theme for the month is accountability, spiritual living through accountability. And today we're talking about courage. A week and a half ago, on May 26th, which happened to be the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, there were some men who stood up with courage on a train in Portland, Oregon. And 3 men, and they stood up for what was right. They stood up protecting some young women who were being harassed. There was and you probably heard about this, or you maybe heard about this on the news, but there was a white supremacist who was ranting and yelling racist and anti-Islamic slurs at 2 young teenage women, one black and one Muslim. And the gentleman stepped in to stop it, to try to calm him down, and they were attacked. 2 of the 3 were killed, and they stood up with courage, the courage that led them to eventually give their lives. Now, there were 3 of them. Micah Fletcher, 21, he was a Portland State University student, and he was severely stabbed, and yet he survived. But very, very courageous. He was on his way to work at a pizza shop, and I'm sure had no idea that anything like this would ever be asked of him, that he would ever be called to step up to something like that. Ricky John Best, who was 53, didn't survive. He had been in the military for 23 years. He was in the Army and worked for the city of Portland, and stepped up, and that meant that he left his 3 teenage sons and his 12-year-old daughter behind. Taliesin Namkemesh, who was 23, he also died from his stab wounds. A young man, he was an economist who graduated just last year from Reed College in Portland. Here's what his sister had to say about him. Taliesin lived a joyous and full life. His enthusiasm was infectious. We lost him in a senseless act that brought close to home the insidious rift of prejudice and intolerance that is too familiar, too common. He was resolute in his conduct and respect of all people. In his final act of bravery, he held true to what he believed is the way forward. He will live in our hearts forever as the just, brave, loving, hilarious, and beautiful soul he was. We ask that in honor of his memory, we use this tragedy as an opportunity for reflection and change. We choose love. Safe journey, Taliesin. We love you. Those brave men had the courage to do the right thing. And today's topic is the courage to do the right thing. There are 3 aspects to that, because first of all, you have to have a clue what the right thing is, and then we can consider courage. What is courage? And then we get to look at what makes it possible for us to live lives of courage. Before we can do the right thing, we have to sense and know what the right thing is. Now, our conscience, our gut, our inner wisdom tells us that if we're listening. Here's what our founder Ernest Holmes said, "The criterion for any person as to what is right or wrong for them is not to be found in some other person's judgment. The criterion is, does the thing I wish to do express more life, more happiness, more peace for myself, and at the same time harm no one? If it does, it is right. It's not selfish. But if it is done at the expense of anyone, then in such degree we are making a wrong use of the law." So what is courage? Courage is the ability, the willingness to act authentically, to act from who we are, trusting that what we know to be right for us is right for us to do and be. It's speaking up to protect, or speaking up or even acting to protect others when we are called to do that. It's absolutely showing up as who and what we are. For each of us are unique. Each of us comes with our own gifts, with our own ability to stand forth in different areas and in different ways. Courage is committing to integrity, even when it's not easy. Now here's another story about courage. There was a successful businessman, and he had grown this company to be just very successful, but he was getting older, and he decided that he needed to mentor somebody to be the next CEO, the next chief executive officer. Now, many of his directors were also getting up there in years, and he didn't think they'd be around that long, so he decided to draw all of the young executives together. And so he did that, and he talked to him, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to pick one of you. I'm going to pick one of you to mentor, to be CEO. Now, I'm going to give you a seed today. Each of you will receive a seed. What I want you to do is I want you to take it home and plant it. I want you to care for it and water it. And 1 year from today, we're going to all gather here together. I'm going to see what everybody brings in, and that's going to help me decide who it is that I want to mentor to be CEO." Now, one of the young executives there was named Jim. And he went home, told named Jim. It's a good name. It's a good name with lots of integrity. Jim went home, talked to his wife about it, and he was pretty excited. And he said, "I don't understand what this is about, but, this is what he said to do." So she helped him get a really nice pot for it, and potting soil and compost. And so he planted the seed, and he watered it carefully and looked at it every day and was just waiting and waiting to see what would sprout. Well, nothing was coming up. Nothing was coming up. And about 3 weeks into it, other people at work started to talk about their plants and how they were growing and how they had sprouted and were looking healthy. And his just wasn't doing it. So 4 weeks goes by, 5, 6, nothing. And by then, some of the folks at work were really bragging about their plants. Now, Jim didn't say anything because he didn't want to say, "Mine didn't come up." So lo and behold, this goes on, and Jim is kind of feeling like a failure, but, this is what he was told to do. So a year later, they all gather, they bring in their pots, but before they did that, Jim said to his wife, "Look, I don't even know if I can go. This thing never grew. I watered it, I cared for it, and it never grew. And I'm just so embarrassed to go and show this." And his wife said, "Oh, Jim, be courageous. Be honest. This is what your experience was. Go and share it. And don't worry about the results." And so he did. He kind of snuck into the back of the boardroom with his pot that didn't have anything green in it, put his pot on the floor, and I mean, the plants around him, they were of so many different varieties, and some were big, and they just beautiful. So the CEO comes in and he says, wow, I mean, these plants are amazing. You have grown so many different things, and they're so beautiful. And he's kind of looking around, and looking, and finally, he notices Jim in the back with his empty pot on the floor. And he sends one of his financial directors back, and he said, go get Jim. Bring him up here. And Jim is just terrorized. I mean, he's not sure what's going on. He's embarrassed. And so he's brought forward, and the CEO says, well, Jim, tell us what happened. Tell us what happened with your plant. And Jim said, well, I planted it. I loved it even. I took care of it. I watered it, but it never sprouted. And of course, at that point, Jim was just afraid that, they were not only going to not choose him, but they might fire him. And so the CEO looked at Jim and put his hand on his shoulder. And at that point, he asked everybody else to sit down. And he said, I would like to present to you your new CEO. And Jim was shocked. Everybody else was shocked. Some of the people even said, well, his plant didn't even grow. And then the CEO said, I gave each of you a seed last year, but they had all been boiled. They were sterile. They couldn't grow. And so what happened was that all except Jim, when they saw that their seed didn't come up, they planted something else in their pot. Jim is the only one that had the courage and the integrity to be honest about what happened. And it's somebody with that kind of integrity that we want as CEO in this company. Now, courage isn't always something that gets our name in the newspaper. Sometimes it's just quietly, step by step, doing what we are called to do, doing what is ours to do, going about doing what's right, showing up authentically as we have come here to show up. It's having the courage to follow your own compass. Because, there's right and there's wrong. And each of us can know what that is for ourselves. Now, we can't necessarily know what it is for anybody else, but we can know what it is for us. And we just happen to be the only ones we have any control over. And so knowing that is so, so important. We know if we're doing something that's incongruent with who we have claimed that we are. We know that we are doing something that is outside of our authenticity, and yet sometimes we do it anyway. Sometimes we make those choices that are not having the courage to do the right thing. Well, why do we do that? Well, sometimes we are just not paying attention. Sometimes we're just not being conscious. Sometimes we're not tuning in. And sometimes we haven't built up the courage to do what we know is right, to do what we know we should do, what will serve us and what will serve everybody else. So how do we dig deep to find that courage? How do we access it? Well, luckily, in our teaching of the science of mind and spirit, that ends up to be kind of an easy question. We do it by remembering our truth. We do it by remembering who and what we are. Remembering that Spirit has decided to live in, through, and as us, and that we have access to all that Spirit is. Because when we remember that, when we remember that we have that access, that we can find that within us, then we can access the intelligence to know just what it is we need to do. We can know what it is we have to do, what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. That is available. Now, our egos can get caught up in fear and judgment and uncertainty. At least mine does sometimes, not sure about you. But there is a wisdom that knows what to do, how to do it, when to do it. There is a wisdom that can lead us every step of the way. But we need to remember that we are made of this divine stuff. We are made of this God stuff. God is whole, complete, and perfect. And we get to experience that wholeness, that perfection, that completeness as we remember our source, the source of our life, the source of our being. And so, as we remember the truth of our oneness with the divine, we get to access that courage and the wisdom that we need to have before the courage steps in. Ernest Holmes wrote this: I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and in my affairs. All belief in wrong action is dispelled. This spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all time. So through spiritual practice, through meditation and prayer and contemplation, we can absolutely open ourselves to be reminded of our oneness with the divine. We can open ourselves to remember that we not only live, move, and have our being in this sea of Godness, but that it has chosen to live as us so that it can express as each of us uniquely. We can call on the unlimited wisdom and courage of the divine at any time. Now we do this by remembering that it's ours and then acting on it, acting in accordance with it. It's really pretty simple. Not necessarily easy, but really pretty simple. And here are the steps. First, ask for guidance and courage. Now, that might sound kind of, well, who do you ask? Well, ask whatever. If you call it God, ask God, Spirit, the universe, angels, helpers, guides. We can say, for me, it's like, okay, God, what now? Okay, God, what now? What do I need to know right now? What guidance do I need to have? And then we need to remember that it has already been given to us, and it's ours to receive. And so we get to open to that. We get to say, oh yes, the guidance is here. The strength is here. I can move forward with it. And so then we just simply get to give thanks for it in advance. Thank you, God, that this is taken care of. Thank you, universe, that I have all of the guidance that I need. Thank you, spirits, that I am blessed with courage. And then we get to simply walk into our lives with the guidance and the courage of the divine. Act as if it is ours, because it is. And as we embody it, as we say yes to it in a way that says, yes, I'm going to use this. I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to do this thing that scares me. As we do that, it continues to move through us. There's one more step, and it's really an important one. Repeat as necessary. And then repeat as necessary, and then repeat as necessary. Because, as I said, this is in a sense simple, but it's not easy stuff. It means that we have to pay attention. It means that we have to be aware of our thoughts and our feelings when we're scared to do something, or when we're wanting to back off from something. Knowing that we are expressions of the divine means that we can know what to do, how to think, how to act, and how to just proceed in any situation if we're willing to tune in. When we remember the truth about ourselves, the truth that we are divine and have access to all that God is and all that God has, nothing is too much for us to do. So you have the courage to do the right thing in every situation. Do you know that? Do you believe it? Are you willing to work with these steps this week? See what comes up? My invitation is to go out there and use this. Call on the divine. Allow it to be present in your life as your life. So as practitioners, stand with me in high consciousness. Let's just take this into prayer. Within us each and all around us, there is the unlimited wisdom, the unlimited power, the unlimited courage. All that we need to live the lives that we have come here to live. Live lives of joy and abundance and to bless others in the process. The courage to speak who we are and what we live for. The courage to protect when we are called to do that. It's all part of our birthright. It's all part of this divine essence that surrounds us and infuses us, that has created all that has ever been, all that is now, and all that will ever be. The godness, the life, the joy. And so knowing that, what I claim for each of us is that as we go forth this week, we call on that. We depend on that. We allow it to use us. We surrender to it so that it can encourage us, inspire us, fulfill us. And we hold in prayer all of those all over the world, those in London, those in Portland where things are fairly tense today, all of the people who are in situations that are not safe. We hold them in love, in support, in caring, recognizing their divinity, recognizing that there is a light within them and all around them. And so we know that we are blessed. Blessed with community, blessed with health, blessed with abundance, blessed with joy, blessed with guidance, and blessed with courage. And so we walk forth this week in that energy. knowing that we are provided with all that we need to know, all the strength that we need to act, all of the encouragement, all of the recognition that it is Spirit within us that is doing it. And so knowing that this is true, because I have spoken it, because I have used the mind of God to speak this into the law of God that creates, that only knows how to say yes, I simply let it go, knowing that it is done, without hesitation, without delay. This is our truth, now and going forward. And I invite you to say with me, and so it is.